Donald Jeffries. Donald Jeffries. Author of Hidden History and Survival of the Richest. Host of The Donald Jeffries Show. Billy Ray Valentine. Billy Ray Valentine. Host of the Infinite Fringe podcast. Researcher, truth seeker from the Bronx, New York. Tony Arterburn. Tony Arterburn. Radio host, combat veteran, precious metals analyst, and alt historian. Together, they take on the headlines of the week, decode the disinformation, and plow through the mainstream propaganda. Unauthorized, unscripted, and unintimidated. This is America Unplugged.
All right, what's going on? The War on Reality Report. It's America Unplugged. My name is Billy Ray Valentine. Hope everybody is doing well. We got Tony Arterburn, the wisest of all the wolves. What's going on? Tell the people what's up.
Hold on a second, Billy.
You got it. Oh God. What do we?
I had to take my Tylenol. I got to take a bunch of Tylenol before we do these things.
we need to get through this broadcast. Can you take the Tylenol after the broadcast?
No, sorry. Every time I do a show now, I just have to take Tylenol. I got orders from on high. Sorry.
It explains a lot, actually, Tony. I was meaning to tell you something that you were, you were a little iffy here and there. I was like, and he's taking Tylenol.
I just didn't have enough Tylenol.
Yeah, cut it out. It's not good. Tell the people what's up. Come on.
Oh, it's good to be back, and I'm glad to finally do a show with Richard Groves. I've heard him on several shows, and then recently on OBDM. I love to talk about the true history of the foundations and the dynastic families, and some of that great research that you don't see done much anymore. So great to see him.
Shouts to Midnight Mike. What's going on? Don Jeffries, the legendary. Say what's up to the people, sir.
Oh, great to be here. Great to be with Richard Grove. I haven't seen him for years. He interviewed me for a movie that has never been released. That had some big names in it. I think Jesse Ventura was in it. I don't think Jesse would be in that movie today, Richard, but he was at the time. He seems to have changed, but great to see him here. Great to be with you guys.
All right, what's going on? Thank you for here. Thank you for saying what you had to say. Shouts to Scotty Armstrong who hooked it up. Richard Grove, how are you? Welcome to your maiden voyage here on America Unplugged. We're happy to have you. What's up?
Gentlemen, I'm doing wonderfully well. Thank you for asking. And it's a pleasure to be here on a beautiful Saturday afternoon. I recently moved, so I have a studio that has windows in it, and I could see the bright, sunshiny sky outside. And it's a great time to have a conversation. And thank you for the invite.
No, man. Thank you for coming on. We appreciate you. All right, man. So, no shortage of nonsense went on this week. It's incredible. We didn't get our usual. Let's talk about what we're gonna do. So, I guess we should talk about the ice shooter and people writing stuff on bullets. That's the new trend, the new heat on the streets. Let's write what we're about on bullets. We could talk about that, but I do want to talk about the police state and everybody being Antifa, because that's what's happening. And Trump put out another post, or whatever you want to call it, this morning, I think it is, or yesterday. John Brissom sent it to me this morning, and I saw it. I showed it to Tony. It's a very, very alarming language used by Donald Trump. Don, I'm going to throw it to you. What do you want to talk about, sir?
Yeah, well, that's certainly good stuff. And I'm writing a Substack now. I'm concentrating on revolving around the more questions about Charlie Kirk, but I think that memorial service or celebration of life or whatever they called it, we probably ought to talk about that, because that was, I don't know, unlike any I've ever seen, at least from the highlights of it. So, we had a lot of fireworks there, and RFK Jr., who, I still have a bit of a crush on because I'm a Kennedy fanboy, but he did compare him to Jesus. I thought was kind of inappropriate. And, you had Erica somebody sent me a video too of Erica 12 years ago and appearing in a country music video. And she was the star of the video. I think it was called She's That Kind of Crazy or something, but full of disturbing stuff. I mean, she showed off her tramp stamp, which of course is a butterfly, conjuring up MK Ultra images. And at one point she's ziplining through the city, and guess what appears in the background? 9/10, kind of a Simpsons predictive programming kind of thing. So very strange stuff. And again, people can watch that video and it's out there, but all that kind of stuff is coming up. We're seeing, and we see that in all of these cases, and they wonder why people go down the rabbit holes. I mean, there's just so much to see there. And unfortunately, what I'm interested in is how people are responding to this. I mean, I think these things have a short uh, shelf life, and we just kind of go from issue to issue. Nothing ever gets resolved. People forget about it. So I can write books, like American Memory Hole, because we have a huge memory hole. But this one, I don't know how much this is going to stay or not. But Trump has really taken, he was already on an authoritarian bent, and now he's really going full bore that direction. And a lot of it seems like at the memorial, he very famously said, Charlie forgave his opponents, and I hate my opponent. And he said it in singular. I'm not sure what his opponent was that he was referring to. Kamala Harris still? I'm not sure.
James Comey.
Was it Comey? Oh, is that what he was referring to? Okay. Well, you did finally. I got Comey. I guess has he officially been prosecuted? So I give him that. I didn't think we'd ever see anybody prosecuted. I still don't think will actually happen, but I guess that happened. So that was something I didn't expect.
Yeah, he's been indicted on what exactly I don't freaking know, but it's happened. All right. Let's go around the horn on this. I don't know, how I know how I feel about this. I really don't even want to freaking talk about it. But all the conspiracy theories swirling around the Charlie Kirk situation are crazy. It's hard to look away. I am actively trying to pull myself out of this rabbit hole. That's where I am mentally. Right. And we joked last week that Tony was like, let me pull you back in, and they're doing it for me. They're like, oh, so there's this movie, the Snake Eyes movie. I'm sure everybody's seen it.
Yes.
Holy crap. And I'm like, what do I live in the Matrix? Because
does it have a September 10th reference in it?
Right.
I'm familiar with the Charles Kirkland and the Tyler the Executioner, but the other claim that was made in social media was September 10th. I have not watched it since probably 1998 because I used to go to the movies back in the day. That's where you would see such things. So there was all these claims made about it, and I had a buddy watch it, and he didn't see a September 10th reference, just the other ones. So sometimes there's hyperbole, like sometimes there's something real, and then it just gets a little bit hyperbolized. That hyperbole gets the whole thing thrown out because, people don't like that. It starts back like with Woodrow Wilson in 1911. He had this quote, and then people paraphrased it, and then people said that's a bunk quote because it's not found in that form, but it's paraphrased, and it's really an 8-page quote that he's ranting about this unseen hand that manipulates America and prevents entrepreneurs from rising up in the markets. And it's very interesting. So you have to learn to not just see the lines, read between the lines, but read the context of it. And, if that's in the movie and it has September 10th, for instance, does that foreshadow people scripting such things decades ahead of time? Is it foreshadowing some sort of AI intelligence use back then? I don't know. I try to exit the rabbit hole because that's the question, right? I asked the question like this: if I discover the answer, A or B, if I discover one of these things are the answer, how does it change what I have to do for myself, my family, my goals, my community this week, next week, this year? If it's a substantial thing, then I'll pursue it. If not, I'm probably going to move on because there are many such rabbit holes without exits that you can get lost in out there. So it's like, the getting in and the getting out. It's that scene in Ronin where De Niro's character says, I never go into a place I can't figure out how to get out of.
Yeah, man. It's crazy. Ashley in the chat. How you doing, Ashley? Good to see you. Says that it does have a September 10th or September 19th reference. I've never seen the movie, but it's gone all over the place. And now we have Candace Owens adding more fuel to that fire. Not that I believe a damn thing that comes out of Candace Owens' mouth, but if it's true, it's true, right? If it's correct, it's correct. You can't fight that, right? I don't know if it's correct or not, but
how do we know? We're not taught these things in school, how to discern such things. So I take what people say and then I compare it to the evidence, artifacts in reality that are shareable, that we could all look at that and be like, that says that, or that's, looks like that in a picture or video, these sort of things. So there's a lot of claims being made, and this is the perfect situation. If you were teaching, conspiracy theory 101, first off, you'd always have to start with CIA document 1035-960. countering the criticism of the Warren Commission report. But after that, you would look at situations like this and you would say, where did all the misinformation, disinformation begin? Did it begin on social media? I don't think so. I think it starts with the official press conferences with the Utah governor talking about a bunch of things that for which there was never any evidence, and getting people to think he took apart a thing or put it in his pants. Like all these things that are claimed in the beginning of that story will not be claimed in court as the actual and factual. In fact, it looks like, from my perspective, having looked at these types of things for 20 plus years, they occlude or occult or remove the information we, the people, would need to come to a clear understanding of the situation. So that roof view where you see the guy running across, they have him in position doing the thing, getting up there. They have that whole thing. Why did they cut it out? Well, they're going to go to court and they don't want to, taint the jury and this. Okay, then why not just tell the public? The officials have this. They're holding it back for this reason. They release grainy footage. They release stories with holes in them purposefully because what is the natural puzzle solving reaction of the audience? I mean, I grew up on Quincy and Columbo and a whole bunch of like, you're solving mysteries in 28 minutes all the time or whatever it was back then. We expect to have certain things in place. If you want to say this guy's the gunman, I want to see him with the gun. I want to see the palm print on the gun and I want to see the DNA. I want to see the gunshot analysis, all the residue, all these things should be there. There should be a chain of custody. They purposefully discombobulate things to get the public going all over the place. And look what it does for their ratings. Look what it does for people who are like, I have a view and it looks like the thing blew up. And yes, I agree. Those things look like they're there. But if you don't know anything about how to shoot video, what video compression is, what happens when you take video and try to put it on the internet, what happens when you look at it through a smartphone, what happens when you shoot it on a smartphone in the first place, there's a lot of things that like you need multiple experts to each put their piece in to figure out the puzzle, and not any one range day bro type person that I've seen out there has done enough research outside of their own, what they see, to see what other people see, to bring together a comprehensive analysis of any, like not the last summer's shootings and not this shooting so far, but there are some like rising stars that in the midst of all the noise out there, if you filter for the signal, you start to see people talk, like people with firearms experience and who know math and physics, and can start to say, if the claim is a 30-06 round is someplace in his thoracic cavity and was stopped, then it could not have come from the angle that is claimed by the guy that is blamed, that is missing from the videos. That when they had those the pictures, this comes from the press conference. Kash Patel and these other guys said early on, the pictures were too grainy, so they used AI to bring a face out of it. And then that's how that guy's dad says, that's my kid, and turns him in. So all of that stuff seems not legitimate if that was really the situation. So I want to remember X-Files. Mulder had that. I want to believe. I don't want to believe in aliens. I want to believe that these people are good and have a heart and a conscience and are trying to do the right thing and just always get foiled. I want to believe that. But time and time again, I see organized pressure from above precipitating down in an untoward way that we should all start to recognize as citizens. Otherwise, we're all going to lose our freedom going into the future. And I think we could do better.
Well, we're already losing it. That's my.
If I could just mention, can I just mention one thing that when Rich was talking about, the most amazing thing when I was talking before this week is what happened in response to people have been asking, where's the bullet? They've been asking, where's the exit wound? So they took care of that in one swell. It was basically Arlen Specter should have been around to make this up, where they claim that, and they actually used the term, and I was writing about it, looking it up. The surgeon is unnamed. Now, we knew the names of Humes and Boswell, the people that botched the autopsy of JFK. We don't know who this guy is. He's an unnamed surgeon. They have a Turning Point USA spokesman quotes him, and this is is right out of fairy tales. They called him Man of Steel. They said his bone was so hard that it stopped the bullet and saved other lives. This is what we're supposed to believe, and I can't figure out looking. I don't know if there's been an autopsy or not. It's required in the state of Utah for homicide victims.
There hasn't been, apparently.
Or if it hasn't been released. So how can people not ask questions about this? You want to go down the rabbit holes, but this isn't even rabbit hole. It's basic. Okay, yeah, as Richard pointed out, the guy shooting from his left, he would have fallen back to the right, not to the left. And but that's what happened. So now they've got another video saying that actually the entrance wound was behind his ear, and that was the exit wound. I don't know. What about this magic bullet? It's another magic bullet that's sitting there. And when you have references like Man of Steel, it's miraculous. Then it's like the Trump, turning his head at just the right second in Butler, Pennsylvania, a miracle, and then just nipped his ear. I mean, these things are just ridiculous. And it gives, almost makes the single bullet theory seem plausible in comparison. But nobody, this is all going to be forgotten. The story will be forgotten in a week for something else. And only people like us will even harp on the details. But the details are important, obviously. This guy's been convicted. Everybody's calling him the shooter. Everybody. Richard Nixon was condemned in 1969 for calling Charles Manson guilty. Everybody is calling him, from Trump on down. Everybody. I think Kash Patel said, "We have the shooter." Originally, it's like, no,
he said it twice. I thought he said it once when they had that guy Zinn, and then he said it again later.
Yeah, that's right.
Kash Patel is grossly incompetent, and I think that's what is leading to all the speculation and all the conspiracy theory around it. Not invalidating what people are thinking and what independent researchers are trying to come up with. It's all, I don't know anything about guns. I don't know anything about bullets. So somebody like me is at the mercy of these people at this point. I'm like, okay, what am I to believe? Let me get Tony in here. You've been quiet, sir. What's up?
Well, I actually had lunch yesterday in LA with Sam Tripoli, who was the first person to actually point out the connection between the Snake Eyes movie. He's the one that put that out first. I didn't know that. I was having lunch with him yesterday, and he brought that up. And so those kind of coincidence, maybe not coincidence, that kind of the pre-event pop culture references to something in the future, this happens a lot. I mean, if you go back, even the book that was written in beginning of the 20th century, it was called Titan. And
I have
maybe
it.
late 19th
I have a first
century.
edition of that. Yeah, so it's called
Voyage of the Titan or something.
It's right here. It's called Wreck of the Titan or Futility. And it's this is by Morgan Robertson in like 1898. And I can show it to you on the book cam if you wanted to go into it. But the gist is this guy who knows ships, he has a lot of experience. He writes a book about the world's biggest ship, and it's unsinkable. And then it's going to end up sinking in a way that's very much like the Titanic. And it's called the Titan. So, I'm thinking, at one point, the guys who had the problem, there was an insurance problem with the company that owned the three ships, Olympic, Titanic, and Britannic. And they had an insurance problem that they couldn't cash in on. And so there was a theory back in the day that they had scuttled one ship and switched it out, and that the Titanic was still floating someplace in service, and that they scuttled the ship that had damage from the New York harbor. Anyway, there's a whole lot to that, but there's a lot of foreshadowing. That's a good early one. Congratulations there, Tony. The best that I was thinking of was there was a bunch of foreshadowings of 9/11 in movies like The Long Kiss Goodnight and The Lone Gunman, and there was a whole bunch of other foreshadowings. Thomas Anderson in The Matrix, September 11, 2001. Was there one in Trading Places? Aaron Russo's joint?
Yeah, the clock goes to 9/11 at one point when they're in the World Trade Center. I miss my buildings, man. I really do.
Yeah, Back to the Future.
I really miss them. We didn't do enough 9/11 stuff this year. But it'll like a 9/11 show. Go ahead, Richard. What's up?
Out of respect for Charlie, I don't think it's good to trust without verifying in these situations. And the apotheosis of Charlie Kirk is something I don't even know if he would agree with, like him being put on money in the future and things that they're, going to do. Wow. Same thing with George Washington. George Washington wasn't really down with the Masons when he was alive, but as soon as he died, those dudes made statues and they made paintings. They're like, he's our guy. You know what I'm saying? So if you read Washington's letters, I think he had seen like there was a British magnet in that whole system, and the York Rite and the Scottish Rite. Anyway, the things that came out of it aside, the Man of Steel comment. Joseph Yugashvili changed his name to Stalin because it meant Man of Steel. Yeah. And so this evoking both with miracle instead of magic bullet, it's a miracle bullet, and calling him Man of Steel. I don't know. Are these signatures being put on the crime by the multi-generational assassins that do such things throughout our history? Or is this just like some lone gunman guy from Utah who drove and did some things. He's just really good at doing it the first time, laying on gravel, getting a steady eye on that 30-06 without a bipod, all this, 2,000 foot-pounds of force, all this focused in that little exit entrance wound that they showed people. There's a variety of things that you could pick at. I would pick at the things that have the cleanest evidence and chain of custody. So if somebody has footage, there is footage from people's phones directly, right? The file from the phone, not uploaded through social media. Those frames are more trustworthy and have less artifacts. And now you're really looking at something more clear and concise that still doesn't make sense, but you're leaps and bounds ahead of the people, circulating these like TikTok clips that are all just mashed and stepped on and have a bunch of ghost frames, because digital cameras don't take pictures like photography. Photography is like taking a picture and that light is going through the emulsion and it shows up in a way that's consistent. And if something's moving fast, it'll streak, it'll blur. But in video, as the phones are shooting them, it doesn't know where fast moving things go, and it moves stuff around that really isn't on the crime scene. Speaking of which, the crime scene was not secured. I was aghast when I saw how close the proximity was that those guys were stepping on the chair that he died in to take out their memory cards from the cameras, and then the proximity of those cards not going directly to the public. TPUSA shows you the front and rear cameras that they were running and any other cameras that cinematographers had there, because there's a bunch of cameras there. Where's the official 4K, 8K footage? I know they're not shooting HD. They're using that's real equipment. They make real money. They can do real productions on a regular basis. So they have super high quality. Now, Candace claims to have seen that on FaceTime, but as we just saw this week, you can fake anything on FaceTime now or whatever. Like they have AI that, so I want in this Zapruder film type situation, like in my opinion, when they showed Dan Rather and the other people, those journalists and whatnot, on the day of the killing, they had a screening of the Zapruder film in Dallas. They should have just streamed it live to the public. They had point a TV camera, just like you're doing the moon landing, like show us something that day instead of, you guys know, but most of the audience isn't aware. The Zapruder film was filmed, and then it wasn't released till like 1971, 1972.
75, actually.
75 with Dick Gregory and Geraldo Rivera.
Yep,
so the public had no access to anything but Life magazine. Time Life also had a copy of the Zapruder film. That was Charles Douglas Jackson, who runs psychological warfare ops in World War II and worked for Nelson Rockefeller and Eisenhower. He's a dirty bird. You let that guy have custody of like all the stuff for like 12 years, and now we're supposed to think it's evidence. I bet they had the capability to fake some still frames back then and put them together into, so we don't know what
they published the frames backwards on purpose in Life magazine initially. They did it on purpose. Sorry about that.
But that's been going on for 60 plus years. So if this Kirk situation has a lot of similarities insofar as when people do something and there's evidence, it just makes sense. There's no contradictions to be resolved. There's not conflicting evidence. Things make sense. In this case, things don't make sense in a way that I keep asking myself, how does the accused gunman for which they want the death penalty responsible for these things? As far as I know, he left his computer open. Somebody else wrote in his Discord. Unit 8200 could have written in his Discord, could have accessed it. But I'm just saying, like, the roommate could have done that. And so there's a whole lot of things that don't make sense. And I think we owe, I knew of Charlie's work. I watched it. I saw what he did. I said, I get what he's doing. I didn't have the time to watch college kids struggle with their communism. So I moved on. But out of respect, just for a colleague, I don't think these things make sense. And I think the people who are trying to tell people not to talk about it have the worst motives possibly, other than ignorance at heart. So I think we need to be sensitive to that, because it's happened in our culture before. This is the first political assassination of my lifetime, but it seemed at the time to answer a lot of the problems that another group was having. And that group seems to have nothing to do with his assassination. In fact, they've denied it several times. So I don't think there's anything there. But suddenly they had these big unsolvable problems. And then this guy from Utah took away all those problems. And now he's a lone gunman going to go to death firing squad. By the way, last point, Utah tested its firing squad mechanics early in September, because there was I saw this, it came out right before the Charlie Kirk shooting. There was a Utah news clip about firing up their firing squad because they had to execute somebody out there. So you may get to see a live televised firing squad like Running Man or one of those dystopian Philip K. Dick movies soon.
No, disgusting. And you're right. It's, you know, it's really a possibility. We talk here a lot about that stuff. We've been telling people that is a possibility, and people laugh about that sort of stuff. This is a real possibility that we can see something like that. We have 3 more years. In 8 months, he's become more and more unhinged, in my opinion. It's just getting worse and worse and worse. I've never seen anything like this, to the point that, thank the Lord above, some people in MAGA have left. You know, over Epstein and now over Charlie Kirk. We see the conspiracy theory alt-right world cannibalizing itself in a lot of ways. Like I see it on Instagram and I see it on TikTok, and I'm like, wow, they're turning against Trump. Some of these people, not all of them. The cult still exists, right?
Well,
So
there's people who have like the Trump ideology, full stop, and then there's people who are Americans who thought for a while the Venn diagram of Trump overlapped with American freedom values and self-reliance and individuality and the Bill of Rights, and using the Constitution to protect our rights, not to keep us safe. But now a lot of people are saying there's a difference, and they might have like got on that the wrong MAGA type train. So I appreciate people who have dissenting opinions, because
those people are Antifa now, Richard. Those people are Antifa. You know, so everybody, if you disagree, you're Antifa. You know, so that's what Donald Trump said, not me. Tony, finish up your thought. I want you to finish up your thought, and then we're going to move. In the interest of time, we're going to move to a different subject. Go ahead, buddy.
Well, looking at some of this stuff that comes out, and I love when these connections are made, and you look in the past, and there's something like when pop culture or some reference to a major event that will happen, and those things are real. I think those are Easter eggs left for us to find. It won't warn you, even if you're watching in Snake Eyes in 1998. And I watched it last night, by the way. I didn't see the September reference. It may be in there. I didn't see that either, because I hadn't seen it since I was 18 years old. It's been a long time. But I think those things exist and they're real. They don't. You won't be cognizant of, I got to stop this event. You know, in 2025, you know, this 31-year-old political activist is going to get murdered in front of everybody in broad daylight. But it definitely sets the tone for all of us who need to take a step back and do the real research, really dig into what's happening, because there may never be, like, look at Don's era. All of the man hours, all of the lives that were spent looking into the rabbit hole that is the JFK assassination, and all the great research that was done, and people have given up their energy and they've devoted so much time to it, and thank God for that. So in the court of public opinion, those things are made clear that, you know, the official narrative is garbage. I think that's what we take away from all of this stuff that's happened is, the story that comes out and what they tell you is not what happened. I think the whole thing reeks. I mean, if you look at we were just talking off air, Billy and I, about the ICE shooter in Dallas, and had the cartridges written on the same thing, the same MO. And I'm thinking, and by the way, if you write on a cartridge,
everybody's doing it.
Everybody, well, you write on a car, but the cartridge stays with you. Like, even if you have a bolt action, maybe it stays inside the mechanism. But if you have an auto and an ejection, the cartridge is right next to you. So it's not like the cartridge isn't traveling. People, I don't really know what that means, but they're writing on the cartridges.
That means it's a freaking setup. That's what that means.
Right.
No, I don't know if it is or isn't. It just sounds very, very improbable.
Well, it's very convenient, you know, and it's and what we find. If you really step back and look at it, from Stephen Paddock, Thomas Crooks, and then this Robinson guy, they have no social media footprint. They're ghosts. You know, they're ghosts in the machine. That is something I think that this should be a red flag to everyone. So the official narrative and the official story is garbage here. And I talked about this on my show. I was flying from Dallas to LA, and I was reading Jim Marr's book, Rule by Secrecy. And I thought, when it's written in the early 2000s, and how dense and how wonderful the history was and how many references he has, we lose a lot of that thread. And I think it's important to not just fall for a 20-second clip or something like that that's floating around. We have to do the research ourselves. Nobody's going to do it for us. Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's going to spoon feed you the information to help you understand reality. And I think it's important to understand that.
Absolutely.
But it's easier today to do that than ever. Like, look, when Don was first starting research, there was a lot of man hours, leg hours to go to the library, to go to the place, to look up the thing, just to answer one question.
Microfiche. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So now you have the ability to collect all this Jim Marrs, Don Jeffries density of research in a few seconds today. My predecessors, from whom I learned a lot of this stuff that I talk about, and I always try to point out, like, here's the person who found it, because it's even more detailed than what I can tell you. Here's the source. The enormous amount of time that an Anthony Sutton would have to go and find these obscure facts about the Rothschilds, or, he wrote like 11 books. He wrote about the Federal Reserve. He wrote about gold. He wrote about a lot of interesting things. So that cat had to be out there pre-internet studiously, like, oh, I need to get to Chicago to get to these archives and, be able to raise money in a place that was not funding such research. So it's kind of miraculous in and of itself that we got any of the information that we inherited through the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s to be in the internet era, to be like, wow, I've never heard of the Rothschild international banking family, but let me look it up. Oh, I don't know how to tell if it's real or not. Let me go back to printed books that were before the internet. Oh, they mentioned, okay, so this is not just an internet made up thing. This is something that exists in history. How far back? How many books? Like dozens and dozens and dozens. Oh my goodness, why wasn't I taught about this in school? Maybe those people created the school system so we don't have an education. And then everything else starts to fall in line. So now you follow that through to like mainstream media, which is set up for deceptive purposes by the people who are like your enemies. They're trying to take away your freedom. They're trying to deny you and deprive you of your life, liberty, and pursuit, and attaining and maintaining and retaining of happiness. So I don't know. I take it with a grain of salt and a sense of humor, but I also know that these people are serious and that they have left us enough evidence to get beyond reasonable doubt. But we need enough people to reach the same conclusion by looking at the evidence for themselves, which is why it's great that you guys have a forum where people can ask questions, find substantial, verifiable answers, and then move forward and making better choices, decisions, and judgments in life.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, brother. So some people would say as a result of what's happened with Charlie Kirk, but that's not the case. This has been going on for some time. They've been laying the groundwork for what we're about to get to. Stephen Miller, in particular, that reptilian, shape-shifting Neanderthal of a man, Stephen Miller, has been actively looking to find a way to go after anybody who doesn't think like him. And eventually he's coming after those who think like him too, in my opinion. But we've seen him call Americans domestic extremists. Soon after that, when Charlie Kirk actually got shot, he did it again. And Donald Trump went after or signed an executive order saying that they would do away with Antifa. I really don't know how he's going to go about doing that, but I'm sure he'll figure something out. But here's the latest example of this, and I'm going to go around the horn and get comments on it. This is Donald Trump. John Brissom sent me this. Shouts to John. At the request of Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, I am directing Secretary of War, and this is ridiculous. This Secretary of War shit.
Secretary of War.
I am directing Secretary of War Pete Hegseth to provide all necessary troops to protect war-ravaged Portland. Portland is a war zone now. So let me reiterate before we continue. New York is not a war zone. Chicago is not a war zone. LA is not a war zone. Portland is not a war zone. Okay? It is not. Full freaking stop. This guy is playing psychological games with your mind here, saying this sort of crap. If you want to believe it, if you choose to believe it, but it's not true. But anyway, war ravaged Portland, and any of our ICE facilities under siege from attack by Antifa and other domestic terrorists. Here we go, domestic terrorism. Now, we remember this. Alex Jones was talking about it back in the day. Now he turns a blind eye to it because he's a piece of filth also.
Same term.
But yeah, domestic terrorists, that means you are Antifa. If you disagree with this administration, if you have any critique towards Donald Trump and his regime, you will be labeled Antifa. We're drilling this every week because it's very important. And here we go with this crazy language again that is putting you in the crossfire. All right. I am also authorizing full force if necessary. That sounds very reassuring. Thank you for your attention to this matter, which is the dumb shit he says every time he posts. This is crazy stuff. Don, I'm coming to you, then I'm coming to Richard, and then I'm coming to Tony. Come on, Don.
No, well, domestic terrorist is the exact phrase that we criticized so much when Joe Biden used it.
Exactly.
In his administration. So, I guess it's in the eye of the beholder who the domestic terrorist is. But I mean, these are disturbing lines. And just like we had Pam Bondi using the hate speech nonsense, she sounded just like a transgender activist. Her statement was ridiculous. We're gonna target and go after anybody that uses hate speech on someone. It's like, what this is, I can't tell you how disappointed, you know what I talk about, Billy Ray, by comparison, the first Trump was wonderful because
I'd take him in a heartbeat.
He didn't do anything but tweet and, get in food fights with celebrities, and he never did anything, but they just accused him. He was constantly getting impeached every other day, that kind of stuff. So those are the good old days. But now he's really taken this authoritarian bent, and his law enforcement, his lust for law enforcement is way over the top now. And he's, this is the same guy that was president during the George Floyd riots. And this is the guy who sat there and did nothing when statues were torn down left and right, except tweet and say, I don't know why they're doing that. Like he's somebody sitting in a trailer park. He did nothing at all. And so if there was a call for the National Guard, it would have been much more appropriate then. He did nothing. Portland was a war zone now. Was it Seattle? Where the crisis actor playing an African warlord with an Uzi took over 2 blocks of the city for
dude.
Never prosecuted.
We reached out to Chaz, man. He never hit me back.
He's on his next assignment, man. He never prosecuted. How do you not get prosecuted? People were killed. They took over 2 blocks, and that didn't. I don't think Trump even talked about it. And now he's going into the cities now exactly for what? But I got to tell you, when I was at the 9/11 conference, Richard Gage is turning the tide a couple of weeks ago. Something's going on in D.C. because my Uber driver was driving around, and my Uber driver Mohammed, as most of them are named, and we had a brief conversation, and he realized he could start bad mouthing America because he knew I was going to bad mouth it. So we had a conversation about how bad America was, and Mohammed was telling me. Because I said, wait, wow, where are all the cars? I'd never seen DC like that. I've lived, in the DC suburbs all my life. I said, where is everybody? Because it was like 5 o'clock. It was like rush hour. And he said, it's like this all the time now. I said, really? And he said, and I don't know if that's because Trump has the National Guard somewhere, which I didn't see any evidence of that. If so he scared everybody off the streets, or if they really have laid off a bunch of federal governors. But I'm telling you, I never saw it like that. So I don't know what was going on, but so that opened my eyes. But this is disturbing stuff, and at this point, nobody can defend what Trump is doing now. And strangely, the same left that really was going after him for stupid stuff before, they act almost scared. I guess maybe they think he's really going to come after something because they're not saying a whole lot. This is when he should be criticized. This kind of stuff. Homie.
They're going after Letitia James. That he's gonna go after everybody. It's a mess. By the way, I said Chaz was the dude. That was me being sarcastic. Okay, just putting it out there before people start saying something. What's up, Richard? How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. So first off, shout out to Richard Gage. That was a great 9/11 conference. I learned a lot from the various presentations. And as far as the branding of Antifa and these various groups, domestic terrorists and these sort of things, I look at it like this. Trump's sitting there. He's wondering what he should do. He looks over and sees what Bibi's got going on. He's like, oh, that must be just wonderful. Anyone who opposes you, you just call him Hamas. And then it was like light bulb. He's like, we'll do the same here. So, you disagree with Trump, you must be Antifa, you must be domestic terrorist, you must be something that they can categorize and use forced fraud and coercion against you because they're intellectually bankrupt and can't reason their way out of the situation. So I think that's one situation. The other situation is DC has always been kind of a dangerous place. When I used to I lived in Georgetown on R Street Northwest, way like 25. I'm old. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, I lived down there. I used to coach for the NHL diversity program in Southeast DC, Anacostia. And my coworkers could not understand how I could drive there into Anacostia and not get murdered because it was like the murder capital of the world. And I was like, I don't have a problem. And I never did. So I considered DC a safe city, even though it was a little dangerous and edgy. I later lived in New York. That's a dangerous city. So it was safe. My point being, right after we filmed you, Don, back in like 2016, we had to leave that safe location that we were in Virginia, and we had to go into DC. Now, it was a Sunday afternoon, and it was still Northwest DC, I'm pretty sure. We interviewed the author William Bloom right before, it was probably a year or two before he passed away. So we had to go to his apartment. He couldn't leave the apartment. While we were there doing the interview, we got robbed. So somebody broke into our van and stole all the equipment, all this good stuff. So it was at that point when we were telling the cops, like, it's Sunday afternoon. There's people pushing the strollers with their kids right here. Like, how could this go on? And he's like, oh, dude, you can get robbed anywhere these days. And now with the militarization, like, they let it get bad enough where they could justify putting in troops. And I think it's a dangerous precedent. I think it's against posse comitatus. It's something that was artificially my point being, when we got robbed in DC, Trump was president back then. He was responsible. That's a federal domain down there.
You had to be Big Balls. Big Balls appears to have started all this. When Big Balls got hijacked, wasn't his name Big? Is that?
Yeah, Big Balls. He got robbed or something. He got his ass whooped. Something
that's when Trump took this turn, I think. Seems like.
Regardless, like I've you can get robbed at any point. That doesn't give grounds for troops on the street or the National Guard. It doesn't.
It's no different than the 1960s.
I've lived in New York all my life, and sure, it's there's dangerous parts to New York. Tony and I were out till like 2-3 in the morning in New York. We didn't get not even the least bit harassed by anyone. We actually freaking were breaking the law when we went down to the World Trade Center and climbed over Tony was the first one to do it. Climbed over the line so we can go see
What's
the
the
memorial.
statute of limitations on that?
No. This is alleged. This may or may not have happened.
There you go.
Anyway,
It's a different Tony. It's a different
rumor. Right.
Yes.
But nobody bothered us. Even the cops were like, "Yo, you just don't do that. Come back." That's it. It was fine. It's not an issue. Like, I mean, if you want to believe that New York is a war zone and that Washington D.C. is a war zone, you're gonna believe it. I was in Washington D.C. with John Brissom, with Recluse. I forget this other kid's name from cavdev.org. And trust me, if somebody wanted to jump us, they would have done it and we would have been screwed. Okay. Because that's just the situation that we were in. We were walking those streets late at night and no one did a damn thing to us. Okay. So there's a perception thing here, right? Of what exactly a war zone is. And what dangerous is. I grew up in the hood my entire life, so my perception of dangerous is maybe very different from somebody that walks around in Greenwich, Connecticut, or something like that. One of the most affluent, areas in the nation.
100%, dude.
So there's differences here.
Those people drive past you to go to work.
but yeah, that's the deal. So I mean, are we in a point where we need to have troops on the streets? We are not. This is being done for a totally different reason. Neo-reactionary. This is what this is about. It's not about a crime. It's not about crime. It's not about protecting you. I'll tell you that much. It's about something else altogether. Tony, what's up? Closing thoughts.
Well, for those with a memory, you go back to 2020 in the summer of love. The Department of Homeland Security was running a continuous operation in Portland, Oregon, because the Antifa, I'm going to put this in quotations, or whatever that group was or was trying to set fire to things. And the actual DHS officers pulled their name tags off. We did this in Afghanistan too. So you pull your name tags off so that they don't know who you are, because they were afraid that Antifa would dox them or go after their families. That's the Department of Homeland Security. That was their statements in 2020. Immediately after that, DHS was asked what threat, internal threats that America faced. They didn't even enlist Antifa, even though they were afraid to get doxxed by Antifa. Supposedly, they listed the right. They said that the right wing is the most dangerous political organization in the United States. And so I go back to that, and then you have to realize that all of these things, the calls are coming from inside the house. It's much like Al-Qaeda was. Al-Qaeda doesn't mean the base. It means the database. This is the database of Mujahideen fighters that were picked up in 1979 by the Central Intelligence Agency, Tim Osman being the head of that as Osama bin Laden. These things are not organic. So to go after something and just label Antifa, organizations need funding. Organizations need coordination. And you saw that in 2020. Now the thing is flipped on its head. So the real policy is not a cohesive policy. It's just authoritarianism. It's disguised to make whatever political organization that's either in power or wanting to get into power feel like they're winning. And it looks like they've coddled MAGA or whatever that is, and just thinking this is good. You accept censorship. You can cancel people. You can use the Justice Department to back that up. And now you can go after these organizations, quote unquote, but all that will be in the periphery. And you're exactly, and Richard's right. You can take something like Netanyahu's example and say, well, now you're just Hamas. You're just a terrorist. You're either like George W. Bush. You're either with the terrorist or you're with us. Mm-hmm. And that's the danger here. And using the military, we're being primed for a national police force. This is about centralization. This is not about freedom, and it's not about security. A lot of these threats or whatever are being. It's kind of like Bill Hicks said. I watched CNN. And it's like, I think that the world's coming to an end, everything's burning down, and then I just go and look out the window and everything's okay. That's sort of, if it bleeds, it leads, and we have to be careful not to get caught up in that. But certainly we're being swept into something I think is very dangerous and authoritarian. Absolutely.
We're going to give closing thoughts to our guest, Mr. Richard Grove. I do want to say that it went underreported, but it's just so many things that have been going on that it's even hard to say, that. But there was an executive order passed or signed by Trump that would allow for rapid response National Guard to be set up under Pete Hegseth for any disturbances around the United States. And that's being rolled out right now. I forget the exact name. I think it's rapid response. I think that's what it is. But
I also think, just real quick, Billy, I think we need, I just thought of this, the Project Valkyrie that the Third Reich had. This is something I think if you see the geopolitical chessboard right now and you look at where we're moving the pieces, and Pete Hegseth calling an emergency meeting with all the top brass to look at the threats. I'm assuming they're discussing Russia. I'm assuming they're discussing Venezuela, other operations around the world, the Middle East, Iran. We're in a fourth turning. And that's as simple as that. The institutions that we had the last time, by the way, that we called the Department of Defense the Department of War was in the last fourth turning.
Interesting, man. It's incredible. Richard, we're going to turn it over to you. Take as much time as you need. Thank you for joining us, man. What do you think of all this?
All right. So to Tony's point, yes, everything he said about Operation Cyclone, but also, and MI6 had groomed proxy armies of the Islamic variety starting in the 1920s, before Muslim Brotherhood was even a thing. Those proxy armies are later sold off by Kim Philby. His dad, St. John Philby, groomed him in the 1920s, handed off to his son, who sold them to Dulles. So there's been a long history of Western intelligence using proxy armies to create plausible deniability so that their hands and fingerprints aren't seen on the things that they do. And that's why it's called covert. And that's why they need black money and Iran-Contra and BCCI and all these sort of things. But to Tony's other point, they're trying to foment a civil war. And what I know about civil war that's illustrative of what's going on is that in 1961, Stanford University published a book called A Casual View of America, The Home Letters of Solomon de Rothschild, 1861 to 1863, something like that. It's published on the centennial. When you read the letters of the banking scion who was 27 years old and sent to America to report back to his banking family, he says, he stayed with all the richest families in the South and the North, learned their philosophies. They're equally set that they're right, and there's nothing that can stop them. The North and South will be like two locomotives under a full head of steam on the same track. There will be no vanquished. Both sides will lose. Everything will be destroyed. And he knew this before the war even really kicks off. So when you look back in history and ask the question, qui bono, or who benefits, it keeps coming up, a group of people that doesn't seem to be directly involved, but seems to be just over here. It's the opening scene to Dr. No with the fighting fish, and the two fish, one dies, one's worn out, then the other one comes in. Like, this is classic strategic warfare that is ongoing. So fifth generational warfare in a fourth turning. And I'd like to think that we could learn our history so we don't have to repeat it. And that's why I spend my time on Sunday nights hosting a 7-hour podcast, taking the week's news and juxtaposing it to all the history that we have so that people can actually understand and make better judgments. And then during the week, I teach people all the things we should have learned if we had a real education to survive and thrive and hadn't been indoctrinated and schooled for 12 years. And that's at getautonomy.info. But I try to be a big part of the solution and also cover the ongoing problem so that people can understand. But just studying the problem is going to leave you in a black pill, demoralized mentality, and you're not going to be invigorated to create and be curious to learn. And that's how we get ourselves out of this situation without creating civil war.
Man, 7 hours. We have a hard enough time doing 1.5. No, 7 hours. Good
I
Lord.
started I pioneered long form podcasting starting in 2006. So I've had a little practice at doing it at this point. So you guys are doing great. This is one of the flaw free shows that I go on a lot of shows. You run your StreamYard like a pro, bro.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. Tony Arterburn, the wisest of all the wolves. Tell the people where they can find you, sir.
You can find me at arterburn.gold, which is my website, working on some new podcasts for Paratruthers. So be sure and subscribe to the Paratruther podcast, anywhere podcasts are found. I'm also bringing back the Wise Wolf Gold and Crypto show probably in the next couple of weeks. So working on setting that back up. And I don't know when I'll make the announcement, but very soon I'm going to be making a trip overseas, going to meet somebody really, really important to my research history, and somebody that you'll see. We'll make an announcement soon. It's going to be fun.
If you go over there without me, Tony, we are going to have issues and problems. You understand? I'm just giving you a warning right now. Okay.
I love the warning.
I don't want to.
I love the predictive programming. The revelation of Billy's method right now.
Yes. Don Jeffries, the wisest of all the wolves. No. Don Jeffries is the legendary. What's up, sir? How are you?
The wisest of all the old ones. Somebody burned the place down. I don't know. Now, Substack is the only place I'm not being shadow banned. Donald Jeffries at Substack.com. So hopefully everybody watching this show has already subscribed there. But I'm on X still. It's gotten a little better under Elon Musk, I guess. But they're still play games there. But I've got 10 books out there. Latest is American Memory Hole. So you can do searching and you'll find out more than you want to know, probably.
10 books, 7-hour podcast, going overseas. This is what we got going on here on America Unplugged, ladies and gentlemen. Richard Grove, thank you so much for giving us your time. This is like a second to you, considering the amount of time you put in your podcast. But thank you so much for coming on and talking to us a little bit early here.
I appreciate the light workout on a Saturday afternoon. And if anyone wants to catch the show, it's at grandtheftworld.com. Thank you guys for hosting. This has been wonderful and stress-free for me. It's one of the easiest things I had to do all week.
Fantastic, brother. Thank you. My name is Billy Ray Valentine. Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern on my X, on Tony's X, on Ground Zero Plus. You can find me doing what I do best, and that's tearing down these pieces of filth that are in government right now, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to do some more of it. Not 7 hours. I cannot commit to that, but maybe I can do 2. Maybe. maybe 3, depending on a good day if I have enough guests. Just saying. All right. Make sure you tune in to do that. The Gorilla Underground, ladies and gents. Also, the infinitefringe.podbeam.com. I don't put very much stuff up there anymore, but once in a while, I'll drop something. So go check that. Everybody in the chat, we love you. Thank you for being here. Shouts to Guard Goldsmith. Shouts to Wayne McCroy. To Charlie Robinson. Scotty, what's
Charlie.
up, Scotty? What's up, buddy?
Scotty? What's up, guys?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Thanks for watching.
You know some of these people.
Yeah.
Scotty Armstrong, what's up? Steve Poikinen.
Yeah, what's up, Steve?
Sam Tripoli. You guys know the deal. Thank you so much. Twisted, what's up? Wheezy, what's up? John Brissom. Okay, we're getting out of here. Burn down the place. It's fine. Burn it down. Again, Tony, play us out, bro. Bye.